Let me give a short introduction about Aristotle. Aristotle lived in the period of 384 BC to 322 BC. For Indians, he was known as a tutor of Alexander Great, and he was a disciple of Plato, Greek philosopher, and he is in the period of classical period. He was the founder of Luism and he is a patriot of school. Plato says poetry is mother of lies, and Aristotle opposes it. And as I told, he was the founder of Luism school, and he wrote a half dozen of critical works on their nature. As I told before, Aristotle was the most distinguished disciple of Plato, and he is the tutor of Alexander Great, and he wrote the two extant Poetic and Rhetoric, which was from the half dozen of critical treatise. And poetic meant many problem of literature, and rhetoric is attracted great attention. Aristotle wrote approaches for many works. Dryden tells that if Aristotle will change the present days if he is present. The plan of poetics. Poetics is a treatise and it contains 50 pages and 26 small chapters. Likewise, the first 4 chapters and 24th chapter is completely devoted to poetry. Fifth chapter contains of comedy, epic, and tragedy. Following 14 chapters, like 6th to 19th, is exclusive to tragedy, and 20th and 22nd chapters are meant to poetic diction. 23rd and 24th are for epic poetry. 26th, which is the last, is comparison of epic poetry and tragedy. Observations on poetry, its nature. Aristotle tells nature of the poetic art. Plato tells that he calls poet as an imitator like a painter or any other artist who imitates the three objects with the past or present, that they are things they were, things they are said to be, things thought to be or ought to be, commonly believed an idea. He tells that imitation is an inborn instinct in man and it is twice removed from reality, which never happens is a poem. And Aristotle compared poetry and history. Likewise, poem is for everyone, that is common to every person here, and it is common to every place, person, and things. History is meant to a particular person, place, and things. Aristotle concludes it is a Plato's severest charge against poetry. The function of poetry, it envisages the pleasure as an end. Function is like a imitation arid of harmony and rhythm, and he tells that poetry should be pleasing both to the poet and to the reader. Art is an element in the higher life of community. Art, the one satisfy the requirement of morality. Emotional appeal. Poetry makes the immediate appeal to emotion. Tragedy is the highest form of poetry. We know that tragedy comprises of pity and fear. Pity is meant to the undeserved suffering of the hero, and the fear the worst that may befall him. Emotional appeal of poetry is not harmful as Plato believed if we let our own sense of pity grow strong. Health giving and artistically satisfying is the tragedy, says Plato. Observations in tragedy, and here its origin. Aristotle tells poetry is an imitative art and he comprises the imitative art into two parts, nobler action and meaner action. Nobler action is called as the graver spirits and meaner action is called as the trivial sorts. Tragedy is superior to epic, says the Aristotle, having Its characteristics. Tragedy is an imitation of an action. Tragedy refers to pity and fear. Action comprises of human activities including deeds, thoughts and feelings. It is in the three parts like beginning, middle and end. Beginning never understand the story and the middle is more required to the listener to understand and end should be completion. So never put them in a complication as middle, end and beginning. So we never confuse the three state of beginning, middle and end. Plot should have magnitude and responsible length, not too long or too short, just in a proportion. If too short, mind miss many things. If too length, mind can't take all events. Aristotle owned words like a length which can easily embarrassed by the memory. And it has two characteristics like artistic ornament and form of action. Its constituent parts. It contains of six parts, namely plot, character, thought, diction, song, and spectacle. Without action, they cannot be tragedy. They may be without character. Character determines the men's qualities. Structure of the plot. Plot being soul of a tragedy. It contains three parts like unity of action, unity of time, and unity of place. Unity of action is connected with one another. Unity of time tells about the time which was taken during the plot. Unity of place tells the scene of a tragic events. Two ways emotion arises is that the spectacular means and the theatrical effects. Simple and complex paths like peripetia, reversal of the situation, anagorasis, recognition or discovery, a change from ignorance to knowledge. Tragic hero is meant for exciting pity and fear. Hero is limited. Misfortune excites pity because it is out of all proportion to his error of judgment, and overall goodness excites fear for his done, says the King Lear. Observations on comedy. Comedy is the root lie deep in satirical verse. Example, As You Like It by Shakespeare. Tragedy is parent form of epic poetry. No man is noble, general, and not an individual foible. Aristotle disagrees Plato in comedy too. Observations on epic, its nature and form. Origin of epic is either tragedy or comedy. It represents God or a famous man. Imitation of a serious action is its mean. It too have beginning, middle and end, and it contains of four parts: plot, character, thought, diction. Remaining two are song and spectacle. Epic is different from tragedy. One important statement it states epic has a great advantage, like diverting the mind of the hearer, reliving the story of varying episodes, and it makes the impossible to possible. Epic tragedy, whether the epic or the tragedy, Aristotle answers tragic mode. Tragedy is for the refined for audience. Tragedy is superior than two, that is comedy and epic. Tragedy therefore attains its end more perfectly than epic. He tells that epic uses the supernatural elements. Poets are liars or imitators of imitation.